Hi guys! Welcome to Twitch Tuesdays at 12. As you may have noticed, Dom turned into Drew.
No, he did not.
No, Dom has an interview today.
We're hiring.
Yes.
We're going to say that a lot.
In related news, we're hiring. So much so that Dom couldn't be here. He does a lot of the interviews for engineering here, so...
He's like an interview coordinator.
Yes.
He does tours. He talks to people about the studio and the culture. He's also an engineer at heart.
Right. Well, no, he is working on engineer stuff now. So he is actually doing what his title says right now. But
then he also, coordinates, make sure that all the right people are getting into the room and talking to whoever the candidate is, and then coordinating, I believe, compiling some of the feedback and things like that. So
yes,
he does a lot more than just write code.
Right.
Yeah.
A ton more. But he's here in spirit because he made a cocktail
He's
for
here
us.
In spirits.
In spirits. Oh.
Should we bust that out later?
Should we? Oh, we should. We can wait till the ice is
going to
get
cold, or is it going to get cold? Is it going to get too warm?
So first, we're going to be our hour for you is talking to Drew for the first part, and Drew is a producer here at the studio. If you go way back with us to our beginning of Twitch days, then you'll recognize him from Forklift Simulator, making Dom do silly things that makes him scream in Forklift.
Pretty much everything makes Dom scream. I'm sure Dom wakes up in the middle of the night screaming.
Night terrors. I hope he's watching this. Oh no, he's doing the interview. Maybe he's making the interview.
But he's usually enjoying himself when he's screaming.
Yes, he enjoys screaming.
It's just part of his personality.
Yes.
So we should do that. We should do that because we don't want the ice to melt, and so it'll be an allusion to
the second
what we're
part of our broadcast.
In the second part,
which
we're going to reveal some character traits about one of our very interesting characters that we have in Drifters.
Yes, I mean I've been posting stuff all week about it. His name is Ziggy, and so he is a purpley pink sentient gas cloud, hence the color. It actually kind of looks like just dishwater on here, so thanks, Dom.
We'll just pretend like it looks
it's
like
more purple here, which is the character is kind of a purpley pink gas cloud. So it was supposed to be called a Ziggy Fizz, but it's not a fizz. So then he called it a Ziggy Poof because it was supposed to have dry ice and he couldn't find any. So now it's just I think we should call it just a Ziggy lifting drink.
I'm going to call it the Ziggy Fizz because that's what we
can call it a fizz.
That's what we landed on, and I don't really care if it has carbonation. That's like
there's no egg
too
there's
technical
no
for me. Like just call it a Ziggy Fizz even.
And I'm making a third one, not for the squirrel. How do you open this thing? You lift up.
So this clicks.
Oh. We all have our blind spots. I'm making a third one for our awesome technician here, Eric, who's been just doing more and more stuff each week.
He's the reason that this looks so good.
It looks better.
Before I was doing this, and it looked terrible. We had a terrible camera. It couldn't focus on anybody. The setup was just... I mean, we were trying our best, but now that we have someone that actually knows what they're doing.
Well, and it's going to look even better because next week, aren't we, allegedly, we've ordered...
Allegedly, the box is right there. We're going to have better sound.
Sound, but he's also ordered a new camera.
And a camera.
So we're testing out a new camera next week.
So bear with us.
So this is just going to keep getting better and better and better.
Also,
so there you go.
This is a conversation. So if you're watching... Cheers to you.
Yes,
and
cheers.
Also, be part of the conversation. If you have questions while we're talking about different topics, if I'm talking about being a producer and you want to know about Blind Squirrel, whatever, just pop them up in the chat. Same thing for when we talk about Drifters and Ziggy and all the things that we're discussing. We want your input. We want you to be a part of this conversation.
And if there's stuff that we can't answer, cheers.
Off-screen cheers.
Cheers. If there's stuff we can't answer, like later when we start talking about Ziggy and introducing that character, obviously it's GDC week, so a lot of our we have a skeleton crew at the office right now. Dell, who you guys met last week,
Several times they met though.
Yeah, several times. He's in GDC, so he couldn't be on here to answer questions about Ziggy, but Eric can write them down, and we can ask him when he gets back.
Anything we can't answer.
Yeah, anything we can't answer. So, yeah. Well, first, let's talk about Drew.
Let's talk about Drew.
How'd you get started at BSG?
So I've worked at a number of studios, and one of the studios I worked at was in Culver City, and we were working on a little fighting game that Sony did. And one of the contractors that we hired to come in to help us with some of the UI programming turned out to be a good friend of mine, turned into a good friend of mine, and he worked at Blind Squirrel Games. So over the years, we kind of kept in touch, but we weren't working directly together. He was working for Blind Squirrel. I was still working for that studio in Culver City. And then I bumped around a few places in Orange County, and then I was looking for a new gig, and my buddy said, "Hey, we're hiring." So because of that personal relationship that I had, I was able to find a really great position here. It really allowed me to spread my wings and build sort of the production team into the vision that I had all those years.
Did you start as a producer here, or did you?
I started, so Brad,
who's our CEO,
founder, he was like the janitor CEO, right?
Yeah,
like he did everything from cleaning the toilets all the way to,
he still cleans our coffee machine.
He's still the coffee guy. He cleans our coffee machine. And for a long time, he never even used it. He loved that practice of like cleaning.
Oh, he loves it. I try to take over, and it's his catharsis every morning. And so him being in GDC right now, I'm taking care of his coffee machine baby.
And there's no winning, right? He's going to come back and go, "You did something wrong."
No, I'm
because it's his baby, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Brad he saw there was a vision for Blind Squirrel. And he thought, instead of, they just signed a big contract with, I think we can say Disney, to do a lot of work.
I hope.
Well, we just did. So we'll bleep it out in post.
This was a long time ago, though. So it's something that's probably.
We're not working on it now. Anyway, it was like the first contract, or one of the first contracts, where he had a line item for a producer, right? To say where you need a dedicated producer on your side to do this. And up until that point, it had been him. It had been, some of the engineering team, just all kind of doing ad hoc production work. And he could have gone out and hired, just any old producer, say, produce this game for me. But he saw that there was something bigger with the company, right? We needed more structure. We needed a department built, not just a producer on a game. So, I was at a level where I was lead producer on several games. I was the senior producer on several games. And I had that experience to come in and then build a department, build the structure of production. So I came in as the executive producer for the studio. Yes, I worked on the game, but I also put in place all the processes and practices and all that nerdy bureaucracy stuff that you need to do in order to have a departmental structure.
That no one thinks about. Usually people are just inserted into it.
Yeah, it's like, it's not just things like, what do you do day to day, but it's like, what's my role in the company? How do I move up through the company? What's my path into the next levels of the company? Those are the things that people don't think about maybe when they start, but then they start looking around after a year or 2 years, and they say like, well, how do I move from an AP to a producer?
People need mobility to stay,
to motivate.
Yeah.
And people grow. The idea is, when people start here, we give them the tools and capabilities that they need in order to become a better person, a better producer, engineer, artist, or whoever.
Or, like a lot of our, that was something I was going to ask you, is where, obviously you came into here as a producer, but you must have started somewhere a way back, because there's so many, production is one of those roles that has a lot of varying paths too.
Even production roles are quite varied. You can have more technical producers, more creative producers, more project managery type producers, and those roles are defined usually by the company.
Right.
So a producer at EA does not necessarily equate to a producer at Microsoft. They have different roles and different responsibilities. So you really have to, understand those nuances when you're moving into a new company. But yes, I started not even in video games. I thought, and Eric will love this, I thought I wanted to be in IT. I wanted to be like an IT guy for a big corporation.
And you're like, no.
And boy, was I wrong. Oh my goodness. I got my dream job, and I was working for, or what I thought was my dream job. I was working for a medical insurance company.
Dream job.
Yes, working in the IT department, and oh man, that was brutal.
That's funny. I did the same thing at an insurance company.
There's some really funny stories though about, old ladies not knowing how they got this adult material onto their machine. It's like, I don't know why all these pop-ups are happening. And it's like, I can show you the website that you went to.
I can see the path, lady. I know where you went.
But that was stressful, frustrating. I had to do a huge life reevaluation.
So is that what you went to school? Did you go to school for IT?
I went to school. I got a general degree. There were no video game degrees.
Right. That's new.
This is ancient
It's
history.
usually only younger people at the companies that I find have these degrees or have even like specified degrees. Like I'm always impressed when I see people that are older than 40 that have that are engineering degrees that know these, because you have to go back to school for a lot of this stuff because a lot of it's just constantly changing and new.
Yes, or some people are very good at self-teaching. So
there's that.
Yeah, some of the best engineers I've ever worked with just finished high school, and the rest, they were doing games as a side thing,
right?
Just as a fun thing. And then they found out that they wanted to be a game developer, and they didn't need to go to school, but they had a better understanding of the fundamentals of what to do because they were just doing it.
Right.
They didn't need someone to tell them.
Well, and it's funny, Dom, who does our hiring here, or not hiring, but interviewing, he's part of the hiring process. He's talked about how something he doesn't like on resumes is people are so hesitant to list those type of things, like the personal project, the game you're making in your basement. He's like, no, list those things, just because it's not just jobs and like where you went to school. Sometimes that's the most impressive stuff.
That's real world experience,
right? And like you've taught yourself, because you can always take a test here if so.
So I did big life evaluation and reevaluation. Good thing I was still young, right? And this is back when Monster was still big. Monster.com.
Oh,
where you were looking when you looked for, jobs. And it was like one of the first online job places. So anyway, there was it was like an advertisement, almost like Secret Shopper, and it said play video games for a living. And I was like, yeah, right. There's no way that's a job. People don't get paid for that. And I applied, literally did nothing, just clicked the apply button and then moved on to the real world, right? Okay, what are the real jobs that I'm going to get? So I got a call back. And they're like, yeah, come out, and when can you come in to sign the papers and all this stuff? And it's just like, oh my God, there's no way, right? So I drove from Iowa. I lived in Iowa. I grew up in Iowa, and I drove from Iowa on a Thursday, and I got to San Diego the next day, 36 hours later. Slept for a day and a half because it was a long trip. And with just about everything I owned in the car, and slept on somebody's couch, went in and got, it wasn't even an interview, it's like a temp type thing.
Right.
You just sign up and they call you when they need you. Well, I wasn't about that. I was calling that girl every day, when do I start? I need a job. And finally, after 2 weeks, she gave in, and she's like, just come in next Monday, right? And that was my first job in the video game industry, literally a temporary tester. I was probably making $8 or $9 an hour, not great, it's incredible to me that people still make that today.
Right.
But, living in San Diego is not a cheap place to live. And I saw, this is an industry, right? I started to understand that you can actually make a career, you don't just have to be, a tester or, somebody that's in the temp. You can move through the ranks and there's a path to success. So I really buckled down. I learned as much as I possibly could. about all the areas that I could in QA, especially like TRCs, which I don't think we've talked too much about, but there's all these technical requirements that different platforms have, like Sony or Microsoft say, if you show a picture of a controller, it has to look exactly like this. Or if you say press the X button, the icon has to look like this, or the wording has to be. And then there's things, like the ESRB and all the stuff that you can and can't do in a video game. I learned as much as I could about all the technical stuff, because that put me a step ahead, right, of sort of the people that were just interested in getting a little, video game money, right? They just wanted to play games and then go home and play more games. So after, I think, about 2.5 years working for Sony QA in San Diego, which I love San Diego. I love Southern California. Big fan, right? I love the weather. I love the people. And so I did the next logical thing is I took a job in Salt Lake City and moved back to the cold. Oh, man. I mean, it was for work, it was for a career, but I definitely would have liked to move somewhere warmer.
So eventually you worked your way up to producer, basically starting from QA
starting QA
to production, which is a popular, if there is a popular path. I've found that QA is a start, but even, a
lot of the guys and gals
we have I had a producer that she started as a receptionist and worked her way up.
Yep.
So there's many paths.
A lot of the people that are in production today that are my age, we'll just say my age, they started in QA because that was really the only path. There's not, there's no video game producer pathway back then. It was just sort of, maybe your buddy worked at a video game company and you could go in as an associate producer or assistant production manager or whatever.
When you kind of know I kind of associate it with like working in a kitchen where you start as the busser or the dishwasher and work your way up to chef, because you know what each station is. You are down there and see how everything works from the nuts and bolts on up.
Yeah, you get to see the process.
Right.
And it's really important to understand how the product flows through the system. And when you're at the end of that pipeline, you get to see all the mistakes that were made, right? So I think that, having that understanding, that mentality as a producer is we're making decisions, about what we're going to focus on now, maybe a year or 2 or 5 years before a game comes out that are going to have effects long, long ways down the road. And that's when all the QA guys are going to complain and, I can't believe they didn't think about this or they didn't do it. But these are decisions that we have to make, and there's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of like what you're capable of. It's good to see that, the end of the line when it comes to producing those games.
And we had someone comment, Lashlar said that they started in QA and that now they're an engineer.
Yeah.
We've had several people do that too. I've seen that, which is always, that's a huge learning curve, because that's a lot of languages you're learning. Yeah. And some people are going to school at the same time and they start in QA while they're going to school, and then, have that knowledge that they're gaining at the same time. Look like my 75-year-old grandparents. I don't know, maybe because we're 75.
Definitely knows the different producer styles are related to what they did before.
Oh, like what jobs they did before?
Yeah. So there's sometimes you get producers that are ex-engineers, and they want to go into a production role and they handle more of the technical production. They interface more with the engineers than artists or designers. Or there's designers that decide they want to go into more production project management type roles. They have different views and visions of what the priorities are for the game. I try to be as agnostic as possible. I see production as well as QA as a service that is provided to the development team. We provide the structure and the processes that people can use in order to more efficiently do their jobs. So I don't want to get in the way of people, other than to make sure that what they're doing is communicated, transparent. They understand what the goals are. They understand the direction that we're going and why we're going in that direction. but not to add a whole bunch of speed bumps just so that we can, ensure that, everybody knows everything. It's just to, make sure that we have documentation, that, we understand the scope and the quality that we're shooting for, and that we have a plan in order to get to that with the resources and the budget that we have. So it's for me, my philosophy is production shouldn't impose. It should only provide that structure for people to work within.
Would you say that most of your day is paperwork? Is it a lot of paperwork?
No.
What are the basics?
So maybe
tasks,
for the people that work for me, like APs or producers, where they're like the boots on the ground, they're dealing with the very granular tasks. Literally a task that someone is working on in whatever task management software you use. We use Jira, but you can use whatever works for you. They may have a lot of paperwork, and they may be clicking a lot of buttons and writing a lot of things or updating your documentation like Confluence or any other wiki type thing that you use for your documentation.
Programs and stuff. And then QA is a very important part of the process. I mean, it's how you get rid of all the bugs.
So I lost my train of thought.
Sorry. Well, we have someone asking if there would be custom skins for drifters. We have a drifters question. As far as I know, yes, they are working on some custom skin stuff.
So we'll get to all the drifters questions when we start talking about.
Yeah, we're going to
Ziggy.
go on to Ziggy soon. So.
So paperwork. So some of the, a lot of what I do is it's more about communication than it is about paperwork. So once you have the structure in place for people to interact and do what they do best, whether it's art, design, engineering, audio, whatever, then you need to make sure that they're all communicating effectively.
Right.
Because without that, you've got the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. So you get into things like we have stand-ups, or we have different discussion, feature discussions, feature meetings. And
stand-ups are like daily meetings, right?
Yeah,
where
every day you're talking about, hey, this is what I did yesterday, this is what I'm doing today, and then more importantly, this is what I'm blocked, or this is why I can't work on something else. So those are, they're fast, but they're really effective in order for the whole team to understand what everybody's working on. And It's really good for production, because unless you have one producer for every developer, production really needs a time when they can go and say, oh yeah, that's exactly what we thought you were supposed to be working on, because that's part of the roadmap. And if something doesn't line up, it's like, well, wait a second, right? Why are you working on this when that's not our focus for this sprint or this milestone or even for the game, right?
Right.
So anyway.
So it's a lot of organization.
So yeah, it's communication is the number one. Structure and communication are the two big things that I do. And it's not all just sitting on a computer, typing. I do love my spreadsheets, though. Everybody knows that around here. So if you want to be a really good producer and you want to work for me, go learn your Excel. Because I'm a big fan of anybody that has mega Excel skills.
That's what I was going to also ask. Are there programs and stuff that you would recommend? Like, if someone wanted to become a producer, that's their goal.
Yeah.
What advice would you give? Whether it's specific classes, whether it's programs learned, what?
So it's really hard to as someone that, let's say you've never been in the games industry, or you don't even know people that are working as game developers. It's hard to say well, go learn Microsoft Project or go learn Jira, right?
Right.
It's really, you have to do this as a hands-on thing. So it's more about, if you can get that first foothold, that first foot in the door at a game studio or at a developer, or even like I did, at a publisher, where you're just one of the masses of, QA people. If you're serious about it, you will bubble up. I mean, there's not fierce competition to get to be, a QA lead or an associate producer. Any amount of motivation, you're going to be able to move up.
Yeah, if you just keep asking the people to keep moving and what you can do to
show your interest, right?
Yeah.
Communicate that you want to do this, ask people what you can do to be better. we've had people with very little experience apply as associate producers here, and some of the people, we've brought in because we felt like their organizational skills, their personality was very good. It's a good fit. So, you don't have to go produce your own indie project, or you don't have to know all this stuff in order to be a part of it, because any production role, especially low level that you're going to come into, there's going to be a structure around what you're doing. There's going to be oversight. Right. So it's more about like, hey, just perform this one small task that we need, and then we'll grow your capabilities over time. But yeah.
Well, and usually like I was saying, we've had a producer who was the receptionist. We've had QA people. We've had them start from varying positions. And because you're in a place that has so much technology and a lot of knowledge, you can always go out and, like there's times where I'm like, I need to learn Photoshop, even though that's not my, my thing. I don't need it. Well, now I kind of do. But to ask people like, hey, can you install Photoshop on this? And then you take an hour or two each week to train yourself or ask people for help. And it's really cool to be in, an atmosphere where you can utilize that. And I feel like a lot of studios would, be the same, although depending on what your position is, how much work you're doing.
My only advice is be willing to do anything, and work as much as you possibly can. Everybody knows the trope about video game development is, it's long hours, long days, et cetera, and that's true. I say that with good production, you need less of that, right? Like,
right.
You, with a good plan, good execution strategy, good tracking of tasks, and good communication, you can reduce the amount of crunch. But production is sort of, the kind of people that are still here, like even when there's not crunch,
right? Because
we're providing all of those things moving forward so that other people don't have to work so hard.
Right. Let's see.
So that's almost a good transition. Any questions about
any production questions?
Production? I'm going to tie my shoe.
Because we're going to go on to introduce Ziggy, who you've seen. Let's see. So we had
or maybe you haven't seen.
Well, if you're not on our social media, then you might not have seen it.
Yeah, go sign up. Drifters Game, right?
DriftersGame.com. We have our email list. And you'll get all updates there. Eventually, we're going to have to do beta testing for this game. And so that's coming in the next 6 months or so. But the first people that are going to hear about beta testing are the people signed up for our email list. And that's on driftersgame.com. And then also we have both Blind Squirrel Games and Drifters the Game, Twitters and Instagrams, Facebook, all the social media. Thank you
for posting the link.
Star Wolf. So on to Ziggy, the namesake for the drink. So this is Ziggy.
What do you think of the drink, by the way?
I like it. It's
I like it too.
Do you like it too?
Yeah.
Is it lavender? What is that?
No, it's creme de violet.
So you joked that it kind of looked like dishwater, and I think it kind of tastes like dishwater.
Okay, he's not a fan of the drink.
It's like soapy. Like it has a soapy. It's not terrible. It's just. It's got
gin in it too. You don't like gin.
Yeah, I'm not a big gin fan.
So for someone that is thinking to enter game development, how would I start? For actual developing the game,
I consider every factor of people that work on a game development.
Right. Are you talking about
so what
design?
Pathway are you looking for? Are you just saying like I want to be in a game developer? Because there are designers, engineers, artists, there's voice actors, there's writers, there's producers. There's a whole
right.
It runs the gambit. Right?
And then,
it's like,
game design is actually the writing, the concept, all that stuff. But there's also level design. These are all you would consider.
Game designers are very
writers.
technical. You need to understand Unreal or whatever, Unity, or how to implement the designs. There's no cool idea position in game to develop indie games initially. if you're going to go indie games and you're going to do this alone, you're going to need to know just about everything. You're going to need to understand from an engineering standpoint, from a game design, from art to all facets.
Right.
So I would say, if you're going to go that path, like there are forums where you can go online and you can start talking to indie developers. Use Reddit to connect with people that are doing the same thing. They can give you tons of advice, places to look for potential contractors or other team members that might want to join you. But there are some resources out there, but it is a very tough road.
Yeah, if you're looking to start something on yourself, you would have to know the engineering side, definitely, and you'd be doing
the best
art.
case, and from the indie developers that I've seen successful, they actually started at studios or they started at publishers. They learned enough of what they do and they met enough people that they were able to then go out and start their own studio.
Yeah, I've seen that quite a bit. We've had people leave and start their own thing, start an indie studio. So yeah, maybe starting and like you said, like with everything, start with QA or start at the bottom, just see how a studio works. Utilize the knowledge that there's so many different, personalities and skill sets in a studio that you could, pick their brains or learn from. You can start learning different software and stuff like that. But there's also, there's school for it, but a lot of time what they recommend is for going to school, it's more like doing a specific...
Go to school for a general degree. Like if you want to be, just getting like even a business degree, I think is as valuable as getting a very specific type of degree, like a video game design degree. I think that you're only going to get so much out of school. I usually equate it to 4 years of school is about 1 or 2 years of on-the-job work. So you're going to learn as much in a year or two actually doing the thing that you're doing as you would go into 4 years of school.
Right.
Not that you shouldn't go to school. It creates a good foundation for learning, for understanding how you work and what you
gravitate towards. And there are a lot of
towards.
Positions that are hard to get.
Yes.
They're very hard to get unless you have that degree. Like a lot of the engineering stuff or the art stuff, unless you have a killer portfolio and a lot of experience, you're going to have a pretty good degree along with a pretty good portfolio. And it's usually in something specific. It's not like art in general. Like
you need
environmental.
Kind of pick a style, really.
You pick environmental or you pick character. There's
well, and even within that, there's hyper real, there's cartoony, there's anime.
Right.
When we're looking for people, we're looking for whatever the project needs from the art side.
Right, so it's always different. Yeah.
So, and we're not going to go hire somebody that's really good online programmer if we're doing an offline RPG. It's just so anytime you start to pigeonhole yourself. Granted, artists are going to do that, engineers are going to do that, but you're going to somewhat limit your options, but you're also going to be at the top of the list when people do need that specific skill set.
I hear our hiring people all the time say, like, I need someone that's an expert in this.
Yeah.
I don't need someone that has a general degree. I need someone that has an expert in this, particular field, or, for engineering. One of the things that we always hear is not enough people know C++. And that's a mandatory thing for us to be able to hire you is C++. And they don't even teach it in a lot of engineering degrees.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So, and I had a friend say, that's an elective. Like, I don't know that's, and like, it's actually like, they're not going to hire you if you don't know it. So there are some things that you do have to go out and seek this information from people in the field, because the schools they have the stuff, the utilities there. You just have to know what to take.
Yeah.
That being said,
I say get a general degree, work at a studio, and then you'll figure out sort of what you gravitate towards. And then once you figure out what you're good at and what you want to do, maybe you can go out on your own and do that.
Right. All right.
And good luck.
You're welcome.
It's a tough industry, but we love it. So.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about Ziggy.
All right, so Ziggy is he's our first character. We're doing a solid introduction to from Drifters.
I like that you're below the fart. He's got the fart.
They
you're
try,
like right underneath.
They keep trying to tell us that that's not a fart, but he's also that type of character.
Looks like a fart.
He's totally that type of character. That would be. And he's a gas cloud. Like, come on, of course it is. So yeah, he's a sentient gas cloud. And he's inserted himself in this spacesuit to kind of figure out what these, humanoids are all about. He needs
some way to interact with organic,
right, with
material organisms,
humanoids,
yeah. And he can't just do it as this sort of
floaty thing.
Yeah, gas cloud. So he's pushed himself into this suit to be able to interact with his environment better.
And he is our sniper class. So yeah, he's a sniper, a default, but he also has some other cool abilities. Like he has a snare. He also has solar wind to push people off things. And so can we do some of that? We have some of the early concept art for him. He has evolved.
Yeah. So when they first started talking about him, they thought about this idea of he's inhabiting this spacesuit, right? So that he can interact with the other characters in the game. And well, they came up with these, very interesting, kind of almost diver-esque, old style diver-esque, spacesuits. But then they realized that if you're playing this, there's no personality here. There's no way to convey what the actual character is. You're just showing a spacesuit.
Right. So if you go to the...
So if you go back to the original one or to the next one, you can see we took the helmet off to kind of expose that his head.
He wanted, Dell, our lead designer, he wanted the gas to be able to kind of emit and to do different things. We have a couple other pictures that are, let's see. Well, here's some when they finally were toying with taking the helmet off so that you could just have his kind of gas wisping off into the universe during gameplay, which I imagine would probably not be an easy thing to animate. But they're actually just pretty awesome. Really good, it looks really awesome. But so yeah, he has a sniper rifle, and then the snare ability. He holds people gives him the ability to hold people in place, so he can either line up a shot or get away. He has what else does he have? Well, his super. Do we have a picture of his super? Oh, wait, we can go. Yeah, these are all concept stuff we can go through.
We'll go back to these.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we do.
Oh, the super's not there.
That's okay.
All right. Well, the super...
We can tell you about it.
Yeah.
And you'll see it later. If you sign up for our newsletter, you'll be the first to get a video of the super going on.
Well, and it's still early. We recently put this in the game, so, it's not as polished as it could be. So that's probably why our art director sneaked, not having took it out sneakily.
But he goes into his super mode, which is like this giant... cloud. So he goes over the entire environment as like a thunderstorm or big huge purple cloud. And it's hilarious because you can see his eyeballs as if you're on the ground. You can look up into this giant purple cloud and you can see these little eyeballs moving around. And he basically snipes you from above. So
with lightning bolts.
Create these giant lightning bolts out of his storm cloud and zap the ground, and they have I think it's an AoE effect that'll it'll shock people anyone in that area.
Yeah, if you see a Ziggy character go into his storm cloud super, it's duck and hide. But the catch is because he's up in the air as this giant storm cloud, he has to leave his suit behind. So he's super vulnerable. So if you can find Ziggy's suit wherever the player has hidden it.
And it's all deflated because he doesn't have the gas in there anymore and just kind of flopping around. You can kind of interrupt him by destroying his connection to the mortal world.
You can kind of destroy him and harm him if you find the suit and attack that while he's up in the sky. So if you're playing as Ziggy, one of the strategies is you need to, you've got enough energy for a super to pull out your super, so you're going to have to find a good place to hide your suit. So that's part of the strategy. But also because he's a sentient gas, he uses his drift pack and can hover longer than any other character in the game. So he can kind of snipe from anywhere, but it also leaves him more vulnerable. What else?
Can you go to the one where it has different emotes, like the different head shapes? There. So, yeah. One of the big things that we want to do with the game is really provide depth to the characters and really get into their personalities and get that connection to like who they are. So with Ziggy, the way that we're doing that is less through animating the body and more about animating his gas, because that's really who he is. So we have things like, we've already done a test and we can do the heart-shaped one now.
I heard the heart. I haven't seen it yet.
So these are emotes that you can do in game, or things that may be taunting, or just ways to non-verbally interact with other players in the game.
Well, and one of the reasons why we're introducing Ziggy first is because we think he really encapsulates a lot of the game's whimsy and the fun side that you don't usually get in a lot of alien-based or sci-fi games. It's not a serious game. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek. It's really fun. And so this is obviously the kind of more whimsical side. And all the characters have an element of this, but Ziggy is definitely a beast of his own. Ziggy's one of my favorites. He
definitely fits the description.
Of the game. And then also, actually, we can scroll through some of the concepts. Someone was saying that it was really cool to look at all the designs of the head. These are some of the early concepts before they took the helmet off. I always think it's really interesting to look at this stuff. You can kind of see the evolution.
So does anybody have a guess as to where the name Ziggy came from? Based on what we've already talked about and what we've been discussing? Feel free, guess away. Where does Ziggy come from?
I like the comment that says "fart with a cotton candy smell." Not bad at all.
Zigzag.
Zigzag. That actually would work. He's so.
Well, the thing is, his body, but like he's kind of a slow, lumbering type character.
Well, yeah, I think he was talking about zigzag papers too.
Oh,
like
I didn't go there.
Puff.
No. This is Twitch. We're on a straight and narrow with that.
I was told we could say what we want. Although we are going for teen ratings, so I think we have to tone some things down now.
Also, they might not have zigzags in our universe, right? That might not exist.
Well, yeah, now maybe. That's where wait a sec, that's where this guy went, or girl. So no, it is not zigzags, although I can see why you went there. Why is Eric laughing? No, our lead designer, as well as...
No more guesses?
Well,
no more guesses?
They have their chance. I'm going to go into it. No more guesses.
All right.
Last chance.
Okay, she's going to give it away now.
Here, go to the next slide. More concept art. We try. I mean, sometimes it's hard to do both at once, but we try to include you and answer all questions we can. Here's some more concept art. But so Ziggy, our lead designer, Dell, as well as many other people working on this game, are really big music fans. And there are some more music Easter eggs throughout the game, too. But Ziggy Stardust was the reason for Ziggy. I was going to say, if you go back to the first one, or it's on here too, you can see the lightning bolt on his arm, which is
his shoulder patch.
The Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie reference.
Bolt.
Yeah, like the lightning bolt.
And then he has the lightning bolt super, the special where he can fire lightning bolts down. And he's sort of made of stardust, right? He has this like elemental feeling about him where he's kind of pulled from all of those different materials in the universe to become sentient.
Right. But one of the things that Del had talked about with this game, with its sense of whimsy and stuff, is that we really like the idea of having these kind of like pop culture Easter egging, as he would call it, which you kind of get in stuff like Archer or even The Simpsons going further back, but just kind of references to stuff that we really love and enjoy. And music plays a big part. So Ziggy Stardust is definitely the first of those references that you'll get, and we won't give a lot of them away. You'll just have to play the game to see.
Or if you sign up, then maybe
we'll give you some.
So if you go to driftersgame.com and sign up for our beta and all of our newsletters, then we'll be dropping some, truth bombs and some hints and some Easter eggs in there.
Some truth bombs, yes. No, we have also, though, lots of stuff to send people that are on the email list. We just sent out our first one yesterday. So if any of you out there got it.
And tons of people are signing up.
Yes, we've actually had a huge push in just the last 24 hours. So thank you guys for signing up. But you'll get exclusive material. You'll get a lot of stuff here. We do this every Tuesday at 12. Each week we're going to be giving like an intro to either a new character or talking to
a new member of the crew, one of the squirrels.
Next week, we're going to go into some art stuff with some of the concept art and some of the modeling. There's an example of some of
that's the
Ziggy's
3D,
modeling. So next week, we'll be talking about that, and we're going to be talking to someone from our art department about modeling and the concept art. But we're eventually going to go, we've got a bunch of stuff planned. We have, animation, if that's something that you're interested in. So come to us with your questions. That's why we're doing it on Twitch, so that we can interact and you guys can ask us stuff and we can answer it. Are there any other questions?
And maybe if you apply
that's true,
to work here and we hire you, you could be sitting right here talking about what you do. So, or maybe not. If you don't want to, that's fine. There's a lot of people that don't want to, so you don't have to.
That's what we're finding. That's why I said we're going to be talking to someone next week about art.
There's plenty more people that say they'd rather not be on camera than they would be on camera.
Too many mean people in the world. I mean, look, we're 75, right?
The internet is not always 100% nice to people.
So a lot of people don't want to come on, but we do have some that definitely want to.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Star Wolf.
I don't know which direction it is, but go to the link.
I'm pointing like they can see where.
I'm pointing at the link that I can see on this chat.
So if you do want to apply, Blind Squirrel.
And we have more than just drifters. If you don't want to work on drifters for whatever reason, it's not your bag, that's fine. We have plenty of other products that we're working on as well. And we're always changing it up. One of the cool things about Blind Squirrel is that we have so many varied types of projects. You can go back to our history and see all the different things that we've done. It's not all the same. And some people, if you go work at some of those other companies near us, they work on very similar products for decades, right? You may work on the same game for 10 years. To me, that's not as interesting as learning new things and growing and getting an understanding of different genres or different styles, and having that diversity of background and products that you get to work on is very interesting and very fun for me.
Right.
So.
And that's because we're still
a great place to work.
Porting, we have other projects with other studios.
Yeah.
Drifters is our first original IP. But we don't have other IP. Well, we have Forklift.
Yes. We still have the Forklift game.
Which is awesome. You guys should go buy it. We should bring it back.
It's still going. I mean, it's still going pretty well. People are still enjoying it. We still have people playing every day.
Simulators are incredibly popular right now.
Yes.
So
I wish we could do even more with that game right now, but it's going well, and people are enjoying it. So we're happy. If you're a Forklift fan, bring it down, give him something to drink. Yeah, he can have the rest of mine.
Yeah, he didn't like it.
I was hoping for the Ziggy Fizz because I don't know what we looked at. It sounded good.
He thought that the
Dom
syrup was too pink.
Yeah, but it matches. Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
I'm arguing with Dom. He's not even here.
Still on early access.
Yes, we're still on early access for Forklift.
Yes. Still on early access for forklift. We're not at. I've had some inquiries about beta testing for drifters. We're not there yet.
One way you can do that is sign up.
That's what I've been telling.
Driftersgame.com. Well, just in case people just tuned in.
Just tuned
now
in.
They can know.
Even though we've got like 5 minutes left on the stream.
I'm sure I can punch it in.
A few more times. I'm trying to think if there's anything we missed. Is there anything else you want to know about production? Anything you want to know about Ziggy? The only thing I can think of about Ziggy is that when he dies, he is a giant ball of gas, so he explodes. So if you're anywhere near him when he dies, he's going to take you with him. So that's another cool, fun
Don't be near Ziggy if he's about dead.
No.
Because he will take a few people with him.
Right. And so next week, we're going to talk a little bit about our character Resistor, who's our anarchist robot. But it's mainly going to be talking about that through the modeling process and concept art and stuff like that. And because I preparing for next week's interview, I didn't know anything about modeling. I didn't know what it was. I mean, I knew that sort of that it was the equivalent of, modeling, like modeling
like
clay
modeling,
but 3D. But there was a lot I
digital.
didn't know. Yeah,
it's clay modeling is still 3D.
Yeah. No, I meant it's the equivalent of 3D.
Digital
3D.
It's like saying, I just wish everything was in VR.
Yeah. I wish everything was in 3D. So yeah, next week we'll be talking about Resistor, and we're going to be talking to our art department about what modeling takes, how to do it, how to get into it. If you are interested in any of that, please send us questions. Jump in on the stream. Yeah, you can
send us questions ahead of time.
Yeah.
We have, what are our email aliases they can send to?
We have just info@blindsquirrelgames.com.
Info@blindsquirrelgames.com
is a good way to get a hold of us. Or social media.
Social media, we have Facebook, we have Twitter. What else do you use?
Instagram.
Oh, we have Instagram too.
So those are all options. And we
also... And a lot of the time, she's the one responding to all that stuff. So you'll actually get an interaction with, somebody that works here or not.
I do. I try and respond.
It's not a bot. We don't have
money for a bot.
Money for the bots.
One day. But we do have money, hopefully, for a new camera. So next week, tune in. We're going to have a new camera. We got the new mics. They were delivered 5 minutes before we went on. They were supposed to come in yesterday. The sound was supposed to be better today. But next week. All right. So, we don't have any more questions.
How are we doing on time?
I think we're about there.
Is it time to go?
We're just treading water at this point, waiting for more questions, but that's it.
Well, we're going to put this up on YouTube, right?
So we put all of our streams up on YouTube.
If you didn't see it all, you can't rewind, then go to YouTube in a couple hours tomorrow, something like that.
It'll be up tomorrow on YouTube. And then get your art questions for next week ready.
Cool.
And go apply for jobs.
Apply for our jobs. Go sign up for our newsletter. And
like the settings of the game, cool space art style. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit more stylized than most space games. It's got a little bit of a cartoony aspect, and
everything's supposed to be somewhat grounded in reality, though. Like at least their reality.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's not. There's no magic. There's no.
Well, Dell likes to stress though that it's like you're not going to get. If you're expecting a realistic game, it's not going to be a realistic game. Like none of our characters have helmets, and if that's something that bothers you because it's inaccurate,
and there's gravity in space,
right? If that's going to bother you because there are people that will bother because it is not accurate, then you're probably not going to like it.
And there's no sound in space, and there's all sorts of stuff. So
there's a lot of things you can.
We get it, but we're just trying to have fun. We're just trying to provide something that other people are going to have fun with.
It's just going to be a very fun game.
There's our YouTube channel. Go check us out.
Who wants realistic? Exactly.
Right? If you want realistic, go play Forklift Simulator.
There we go. I'm glad that you added our own game in there as.
We're multi-genre. We can do everything.
Show me your reality. It's on Forklift Simulator.
Man, I see a lot more forklifts Because, I mean, they're there before you work on a game like this, but you don't
Now you
notice
hit it.
them.
I sent
So now I'm
pictures
in,
to-
like, at the store and, like, you know, the big box stores, and you see the forklifts driving around. You're like, ooh, that's the forklift.
I know. I was at Restaurant Depot a while ago, and I kept sending Dom videos of the forklifts going by, just beeping everywhere, because now I know that they have to beep before they go past any aisle.
And you see them parked outside of, like, you know, the different buildings that you drive by and stuff. That it's just part of the facade before, but now you look at it.
A
So
forklift.
Video games are a crazy thing. Like, it totally changes your reality. It totally changes.
Well, it also depends on what you're working on.
Yeah.
Because if you have a game that you're suddenly researching a bunch of space stuff.
Same thing. At Home Depot, and saw a guy drive by in a forklift.
Yeah, forklift.
They're everywhere, man.
But yeah, depending on what game you're researching, obviously, he's been working on Forklift Simulator, so now he's like forklift expert for someone who doesn't drive forklifts. But
I could probably just put me on one. I couldn't do it as good as those guys do it. Like, that you're watching and they're just like, it's like, I can't even do that with a controller. Right? And they're just like putting the hammer down with people like 3 feet away from them. It's crazy how good those people are. Props to those forklift drivers out there.
yes. All right, well, I think we're gonna head. What time is it, Eric?
12:56.
Oh, we got 4 more minutes. Send us a question.
Even if it's about forklift.
Yeah, I love talking about forklift. Actually, I'll tell another game development perception story. So
Okay.
when I was working on Twisted Metal, actually I didn't talk about any of the games I did before. When I was working on Twisted Metal, one of the things that we had in that game, we called Foley cars. Like, they're just like little cars that you would drive through and crash off the road. They didn't really affect your gameplay, but it added elements of realism to cars with, you know, machine guns and weapons strapped to them. And one of the just silly little tasks that I had was I had to figure out what the average, like what the ratio of car colors was. So that, because if you just make all your cars white, you know, it's like, well, that's not reality. But,
You have to.
you know, you have to mix them up. So I did this is like half day of research, but it's a weird thing to research. And, you know, I found that, like, actually the vast majority of cars, like the biggest percentage is white. And then it's black, and then it's different colors, so on and so forth. But so, you know, we got it pretty dialed in. It wasn't exact, but now when I'm driving around and I'm in traffic, because in Southern California there's traffic, I start like looking around, like, how many white cars are there and how many black cars are there? It's like, you know, how'd we do? Right?
Forever change. So BDKH asked, "Do you think about making VR games?" Well, the forklift one we were talking about. That is a VR game.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic VR game if you're into VR games. We get, I think, some of the best comments and feedback that we've had where we did such a good job on the VR side. It's 1-to-1, right? It's the same experience. There's no loss of fidelity or loss of capability in VR. And it gives you the real experience other than the physical movement, right?
And they also asked,
the VR game industry is in need for a good single-player game. Well, they can go pick up Forklift Simulator right now.
It might not be exactly what you're looking for.
It's probably not the killer app that's going to sell
a
vibe to everyone in the world. But
although the order picker is quite a thrill. Just ask Dom. Although I also was a little freaked out because you go all the way up and it looks like you're going to fall.
30-some feet.
It looks like you're going to fall off. It's pretty exhilarating.
Yeah.
So so that's our VR game. Forklift. Not to say that.
So far, so good. We would love to, you know, keep working on VR games. This doesn't really lend itself to VR.
Drifters.
But that's not to say that we wouldn't do VR. Or maybe there's a VR experience. You know, we have worked on those that we've never released where it may not be the game or the gameplay, but it's an element of the narrative, right? And you get to experience, like, I think a really cool thing would be you get to go to the Exiles bar, right?
Right,
and you can experience what the Exiles bar feels like in VR. But that's just it's a snapshot experience. I'm not saying we're doing that.
No.
I'm just saying I think personally that would be cool. But
something to pitch.
Yeah. But there's a lot of possibilities with VR as sort of that interstitial content where it supports a bigger thing.
Right. All right. I think
Those are real. Just go on any freeway.
Sorry, we're looking at the chat.
Those are real. Just go on any crash. Go on any freeway in California.
Let's see. If you want to make a VR game, give us the opportunity to give you our advice and notes regarding it.
If we ever do
Sure
any,
thing.
we do beta testing for any game that is our own IP, of course, which is why we're telling everyone to sign up for the Drifters email list, because that's who we're going to tell about it first. But anytime that we would be doing, if down the road we do a VR game and we need beta testers, then definitely you guys would be the first ones to know if that is something that we end up doing. Yeah, Drifters would not lend itself to VR. That would be just vomit everywhere. Grappling. I mean, it would be fun for 5 minutes and then...
Maybe. Even I still get sick if I am doing too much motion in VR.
Yeah, but Drifters is not. There was a thing going around for a while saying that Drifters is a VR game, and that is not true. I tried to send some emails out to the people posting this in articles. That is not. We're not releasing this in VR. So
that is not the plan.
No.
But if you want all the real info.
He's going to plug it. He's going to plug it one more time.
You go to driftersgame.com and you can sign up and we'll send you all the real info.
I wouldn't be surprised if everyone on here is already signed up. Because I did send a thing about it.
Raise your hand if you're signed up. I'm signed up. I got my personal account on there.
I'm signed up also.
All right.
I have my work account.
He's raising his hand.
Here it comes again. Thanks, Starwolf. All right, well, come back next week. We have another stream, as usual, Tuesdays at 12.
I just don't like it.
Pacific Standard Time. What?
Daylight time.
Oh.
No, I mean, 12. Tuesdays
12.
at 12.
I know, it used to be
It's
2.
like alliteration killer.
But it's still an alliteration because
It's
the
just
T.
the T.
Yeah.
It's
alliteration just needs to be.
I know, but Tuesdays at 2. It's got the same.
I know.
I
know. We had to switch it. Because of a project that Dom is on.
It's Dom's fault.
Yeah, so it's Dom's fault. Got to do meetings and work.
That's not me. It's not.
So Tuesdays.
Don't blame production on that one.
Tuesdays at 12. We'll be back next week. We'll be doing art concepts and modeling. We'll be talking about Resistor. So join in for that and make sure. What do you want to tell them, Drew?
Send us your questions. Send us your comments. We want to be.
I thought you were going to plug.
We want this to be. Plug what?
The Drifters game one more time.
What game?
He was giving you an opportunity.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you right now. But yeah, let's create a dialogue. So we're more than happy to start talking to you guys, and you can do that through all those different ways, all those social media, the email, info@blindsquirrelgames.com. Drifters Game, blindsquirrelgames.com. You'll be able to get to us, and I'd say unless you're sending us, horrifically ugly comments or something that's not cool, you're going to get a response. Or something
that's not our project. If it's not ours to talk about, we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, if you tell us we should be doing Half-Life 3, then
right. I agree about that. Let's get on that.
We're not gonna comment on that.
Yeah.
But if there's something relevant, we will absolutely engage you and start the discussion, and we're happy to provide feedback. So please, bring it on.
So see you next week, guys.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Bye.